Welcome to Elevate English. Elevate your English. Elevate your life. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe to the Elevate English channel. Let's start our story. A note in the library. The sun had barely risen, casting its first golden rays over the quiet town of Ashford. It was a town that seemed untouched by the hustle and bustle of the world outside, a place where life moved at a gentle pace. The streets were lined with old brick houses, each with flower boxes under the windows, bursting with colour. At the centre of the town stood an old library, a grand building with towering columns and a bell tower that rang out every hour. It had been a staple of the community for as long as anyone could remember, a place of knowledge and history. Lena Miller was the head librarian at Ashford's library, a position she had inherited when her grandmother passed away. She had grown up surrounded by books, and it was no surprise when she chose to follow in her grandmother's footsteps. The library was a sanctuary, a place where she could lose herself in the written word and organize the stories of the world for others to find. Though Ashford was small, the library served as a hub for the town's residents, who would often come in to escape into the pages of a novel or search for answers in the stacks of dusty old encyclopedias. Lena was content in her quiet life. She had no real desire to leave the small town, no ambition to seek fame or fortune. The library was enough for her. But there was always something missing. She couldn't quite put her finger on it. But as the days passed, she often found herself staring out of the library's large windows, longing for something beyond the stacks of books and the pages that filled her world. It was on a Wednesday morning, as the first chill of autumn settled in, that something unexpected happened. Lena was going about her usual tasks, shelving a new collection of books that had just arrived, when she found a note tucked between the pages of an old novel, a book that had been returned after years of being checked out. The note was handwritten in elegant, flowing script, and the words struck her immediately. Sometimes, the quietest moments speak the loudest. Lena stared at the note, confused. She had never seen it before, and it wasn't signed. No one in Ashford had ever left a note like this in the library, at least not since she had taken over. The book was one she remembered from her grandmother's collection, and she could hardly believe anyone would leave a message in it after all these years. She flipped through the pages, hoping to find more notes, but there was nothing else. The book seemed to hold no other secrets. She took the note into her pocket, unsure of what to do with it. For the rest of the day, she couldn't stop thinking about the note. It was a simple phrase, but it stirred something deep inside her. She had always been someone who valued silence and solitude, but what did the note mean? And who had left it? That evening, as the library closed and the last of the visitors trickled out, Lena sat alone at her desk, turning the note over in her hands. She wondered if it had been meant for her, or if it was a message meant for someone else. She couldn't shake the feeling that the note had come at the perfect moment, just when she had been questioning what more there was to life beyond the quiet walls of the library. The next morning, as Lena arrived for her shift, she was surprised to find another note, this time slipped under the door of the library. This one was simple, direct. Meet me at the old oak tree by the river at sunset. Bring the book. Her heart raced. Who was this person? And why the old oak tree? The riverbank had always been a place she visited alone when she wanted to think. It was her secret spot, where she could sit by the water and watch the sun dip below the horizon. She had never shared it with anyone. With a mix of curiosity and caution, Lena decided to go. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, she walked down the winding path toward the river. The autumn air was crisp, and the trees rustled softly in the breeze. She reached the old oak tree, its wide branches stretching out like arms reaching for the sky. Beneath its sprawling canopy, there was a figure waiting. A man. He stood with his back to her, gazing out over the river. He was tall, with dark hair that fell to his shoulders and a coat that fluttered slightly in the wind. Lena hesitated for a moment, her heart racing, unsure of what to do next. "You came," the man said, turning around. His voice was warm, with a slight, familiar accent. Lena blinked, recognizing him immediately. He was someone she had seen around town, someone who came to the library now and then, but they had never spoken. His name was Oliver Sinclair, a writer who had moved to Ashford a few months ago. He kept to himself, always sitting in the corner with a notebook, jotting down notes. But she had never thought much of it. After all, there were plenty of visitors who came and went from the library. But now, standing before her, he seemed different. There was something about him that she couldn't quite place. "Oliver?" she asked, her voice catching in her throat. He smiled, a slow, knowing smile. "I thought you might recognize me. I've been leaving you the notes." Lena's mind raced. But why? What does all of this mean? Oliver stepped closer, his gaze soft and intent. "It's simple, really. I've been watching you, Lena. I've been coming to the library for months, reading your books, listening to you talk to the townspeople. There's a quiet strength about you, something in the way you carry yourself. I wanted to know more." Lena felt a wave of confusion and something else, something like excitement, flood her chest. "You've been leaving notes for me?" "Not just notes," Oliver said, reaching into his coat pocket and pulling out the same book that Lena had found the first note in. "I've been leaving words for you to find. Words that I think you need to hear." Lena's breath caught in her throat. The book. She had held it in her hands yesterday, wondering if it had any deeper meaning. "I've never been good at saying things out loud," Oliver admitted, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "But when I saw you, I knew you were someone who would understand. You see, the quiet moments, they do speak the loudest, don't they?" Lena nodded slowly. For the first time in ages, she felt a sense of connection with someone who seemed to understand the very essence of who she was. She had spent her life surrounded by books and stories, but this was real. "I think I've been waiting for someone to hear me," Lena whispered. Oliver smiled softly, holding out the book to her. "I think we've both been waiting a long time." As the sun dipped lower and the colors of twilight spread across the sky, Lena realized that, sometimes, the quietest moments weren't just a refuge, they were the beginning of something new. And for the first time, she didn't feel alone. Days passed, and the connection between Lena and Oliver grew deeper. They met regularly at the library or by the river, sharing their thoughts, stories, and dreams. Lena found herself looking forward to their encounters, drawn to Oliver's quiet yet profound presence. He wasn't the typical romantic figure. There was no grand declaration, no sweeping gestures, but instead, Oliver's love was in the quiet way he listened, in the way he saw her, in the way he made her feel understood. Their relationship blossomed not in the rush of the world, but in the stillness between words. The more time they spent together, the more Lena realized how much she had been missing. The library, once a refuge, became a place they visited together. She would show Oliver her favorite books, the ones that had shaped her, and he would share his thoughts on writing, on stories, and on the quiet beauty of life. There was something deeply comforting in their shared silences, the way they could simply be with one another without needing to fill the air with words. One evening, as the first stars began to twinkle above, they sat by the river, the same spot where they had met, their fingers brushing occasionally as they spoke. Oliver turned to Lena, his gaze soft but steady. "I've spent so much of my life writing," he said, But it wasn't until I met you that I realized the most important stories aren't the ones I write down. They're the ones we live. Lena smiled, her heart full. I think we're writing our own story, Oliver. One day, someone will read it. And maybe, just maybe, he said with a glint in his eye, it will be our quiet moments that speak the loudest. And in that moment, under the stars by the river, Lena knew that the love they shared, quiet, tender, and true, was the story she had been waiting for all along. The end. I hope this extended version suits your needs. Let me know if you'd like any further revisions or additions.